Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TrueLife podcast. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. I hope the sun is shining, the birds are singing. I hope the wind is at your back. I have triple the show for you today. I have three incredible women with three incredible stories and a call to action at the end that everyone is going to be dying to do. Let me just start by saying that everyone should gather around and brace yourselves for an incredible book called Rattled Awake. Because I have not one, not two, but a triumphant trio of literary luminaries who penned the mind-bending masterpiece Rattled Awake. Rattled Awake. These three authors are so accomplished that even the dictionary turns to them for spelling advice. So original that even their pets can't predict their next move. And so intrepid that they once had a staring contest with a blank page and won hands down. We have the incredible Lonnie Ray, Chef Jill Sullivan, and Erica Workman. I'm so stoked all of you are here today. And in the beginning, I was trying to figure out where to start because each one of you have an incredible gift. And the book Rattled Awake, of which there's a workshop this weekend people should be checking. I will put them in the show notes. But I thought maybe what really called to me when I first started reading the chapter with Chef Jill is her story about this transformation from a part of California to a part of Utah and a transformation of her life. And I was wondering, Chef, could you give us a little bit of background on how the sun rises all over the world and how your story kind of transformed?
Oh gosh. If you don't mind, I'm going to start with my last job.
Please.
Is that okay?
That's perfect.
So my rattled awake moment came after I retired from my last job. As many of you know, and if you're retired, you know what hits you when that happens. It rattles you awake, and you're like, okay, what's next? So I was an executive chef at a recovery center for professionals like policemen, firemen, in that genre. And I felt like my true calling was service and serving them. And once that stopped, it was like, okay, what's next? Because I've always believed that through service, we become great. We have greatness when we can serve others. And for me, I know that's my calling in life, is to serve others and to give back to wherever I can. So March 1st, I retired, and I was left wondering what's next. And if you know me personally, you know that I'm a workhorse, that I'm in there 24/7. My job required 12 to 14-hour days, writing schedules and menus and feeding the clients, which were usually 30 to 40 for lunch, by myself. That required all the dishes and everything. So when that stopped, it was like hitting a brick wall. And I've always believed in taking my questions to a higher source in meditation or in prayer or whatever it may be. And so I found myself saying, okay, well, I did this and I can't do that anymore because I have back issues and all kinds of things. What can I do? And then I met Lonnie, and I think her personality and her charm, and I just wanted to get involved with anything that she had to offer, because I believe in just jumping in. I don't think that you should have, everything written in stone. I believe if you jump into something, it's called for you, and what's called for you is for you. And that's how my rattled awake moment came about, is finding this book and deciding that I wanted to do it. And then after I jumped into the book and we wrote the book, I'm like, what else can I do? What can I do for this book? Because it really touched my heart and had a place in my heart. And after writing it and getting involved, I'm like, I got to get more people into this. I want people to come aboard. Right, Lonnie? I did that.
Big time.
I'm like,
Not a little, a lot.
whatever I can do, man. I was just like promoting, and because I know that it changed my life and it did something for me. And so that's why I'm always sharing it now. I'm just like so about rattled and awake, and how I can share that with others.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes of success. It seems to me that when you have these moments of clarity, they become contagious. And it's like finding Lonnie became the megaphone with which you could share your experience to other people. She became the mountaintop from which you climbed and started yelling, "Hey, just jump in the water. It's fine over here."
I want to throw something in though about this Jill getting enrolled. It's funny how life is, guys. And out of the blue, I felt inclined to reach out to Jill. It had been a while. It had been quite a while. And she just came to mind. And I said, Bing, how's 3 years treated you? How you doing? And we reconnected, and I sent her over to my How to Deal with a Dumbass, a Spiritual Perspective podcast. And it came at just the right time, didn't it, Jill?
Yes.
It lifted her up. She was searching, soul searching big time. I got lots of messages like, I don't know what to do with myself next. I don't know what's next. I'm praying, God, what do I do? And by the way, your show makes me laugh. I drive hours and I listen to it, and it helps. It's helping. You know, anybody out there who thinks about doing a podcast like you, Bob Whitty, it matters. And it revolutionized in some ways Jill's path and what she was going to do. At least she was able to find some humor and some ahas because it was based on my dumbass book. And then that started a rapport that hasn't stopped. And her promotion, I cannot thank you enough, Jill. You've sent beautiful people just like yourself to the volume 2, and I'm just so grateful because you do see the vision. You really do get what Rattled Awake can do to elevate people and their ideas and their stories in a unique way that they would never have before. So thank you.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think that there always has to be some people that go first. You know, and the people that go first tend to blaze a trail for other people to follow. Although sometimes there's like this thought mechanism that happens where we mourn the things that never existed. This reminds me of Erica up here, who has an incredible chapter about the way in which Gen X is kind of moving through. You're doing some incredible things. Maybe you could talk about your relationship to Lonnie and your relationship to the chapter of the book.
My relationship to Lonnie and I have been connected on LinkedIn for a few years now. I think since the pandemic. And we just kind of supported each other's posts. And I remember she did this beautiful, beautiful video montage of a Japanese interactive experience in a museum where like you walked in the room and the whole thing was like the exhibit. It was insane because she knew my background was Japanese. And then there was a period of time where I noticed that Lonnie had kind of gone silent on the platform. And I remember thinking, well, that's weird. And, you know, I think I even tried to reach out a couple times through the DM, and I really didn't know how to get a hold of her outside of the DM. And then she came back guns blazing and we reconnected. And then this opportunity came up, and Lonnie's so sweet. You know, she's like, yeah, Erica can write. She's been writing, and writing for something like this, I'm going to tell you, for those of you who are copywriters or maybe you're academic writers, I have this massive tome of a master's thesis, and that's a very different kind of writing than doing something like copywriting, which is what I do, or digital marketing. You can do this. If you've got a book in you and you've been saying, well, I'm going to get to it someday, someday's today. You know, don't let that song in you die. And so when she said, would you like to be a part of this? Same thing. You know, Lonnie and I had been tooling around with book ideas, and I just kept getting bogged down with, you know, some other projects. And I was like, yeah, it's one chapter, one weekend, I'm in. And for me, I didn't really have that blank page. It was just, oh, okay, you know, and it was done, because I'm a big believer in you just write it down and then you edit.
One of the things about Erica that you guys might want to know is that we had some discussions about a variety of book ideas. So for those of you out there who are like, what do I write about? What do I focus on? I just don't know. When you come to a workshop like we had, Jill you said you changed your mind 4 times, right? Yeah.
Easier said than done, too. I spent from 5 in the morning till 10 at night.
Wow.
Just finishing up what resonated with me finally. Yeah.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think, we can ask for a sign, which way should I go? Because I think we've all had more than one rattle wake moment.
Mhm.
I really do.
Yeah.
And there's multiple versions coming, multiple volumes, so you get more opportunities. But the point is, figuring out what it is that you want to say this time. What matters the most? What's your legacy message?
Mhm.
What's your message for the masses? And Jill's is so inspiring with rewrite your future, your next chapter, and it's so her. It is, and it was interesting to see the process. And that's what story development's all about. That's what's cool about this workshop is that somebody else's people are coming in and going, "Hey, I see this about you, or I see that,
Mhm.
and what about this? I know you to be this." And so the feedback and the collaboration was just outstanding. And
Mhm.
then with Erica's chapter and ageism and what is it? Not a cougar, not a Karen, and worth way more than 9 pence. Is that the title?
Amen.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic and unusual angle, and yet if you read the stories, it's hilarious and it's horrifying all at once about what's really going on. So these aren't just stories about someone's personal journey; they're about reality, about what's really going on in the world, and wake up call. And so, go ahead, Eric.
Oh no, what I was going to say, and realizing that what I thought was the marriage wasn't the marriage, and sitting in counseling and hearing the counselor ask him, "Well, why did you marry Erica?" And him saying, "Well, I thought she was pretty and she'd be good for business."
Jesus.
Right, and this was somebody our first kiss was on our wedding day, we waited, and so had
Wow.
gone through all sorts of premarital counseling, meeting the pastors, meeting the family, and so to hear that, it was quite the shock, and at the same time, it was a gentle rattled awake because God immediately came in and just said, "Do not mourn what never existed," and I realized, I am free. But then that is what kinda saved me in the aftermath of the next several years of meeting many people on that far end of the narcissistic spectrum and realizing they're there to present something that you will soon find out never existed. And so it was a series of rattled awake moments in just how women of a certain age are treated, but especially once I turned 44, and especially once my much younger husband then boyfriend came into the picture, and the huge difference in how a woman is treated versus how a man is treated when they date somebody who is younger. And the saddest thing of all to me is I was on YouTube and I was watching a bunch of male psychologists come in defending that older woman, younger man relationship from their perspective when they dated older women. And they did the thing. They did the thing. She was there to teach me everything that she knows. And I was like, is that it? That's the only thing, really. And so, for myself and Peter, my current husband, we waited till our wedding day, and that just blew people's minds. It's like, no, no, I'm serious when I say I'm not a cougar. That is not what that relationship was about. And so that was a rattled awake moment, for the both of us to see just how people have their preconceived notions of their own sick fantasies, and they take their trauma, they take their weirdness, and they project it onto you. And it was fascinating to go through and to still see people clinging to that trope of older woman, younger man, and how they think it should be.
Yeah,
I
it
just
blows
think
my
love
mind to
is
think.
love, right? I just think love is love, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't
Mhm.
matter how old you are or anything like that. So
Yeah, it is. What were you
Yeah,
saying, Lonnie?
We've just got a world full of judgmental people who think that they can put you in a box, close the lid, and call it done. And it ain't done, hun. Y'all need to open up your eyes, let it go, and realize you can revise what you're looking at because your view may not be really realistic. And this chapter that Erica wrote is eye popping. Talk about eye opening as to how ignorant some people can be. I'm
There
just
he
kidding.
is.
Yes, your man here, Crystal Pete himself.
Love
the
has
man
no
from
age.
Legend. Yes,
Well, when they're as cute as Peter is, you know,
it's
he
true.
it's true. He's a
You
cutie.
Model material for sure.
he's
And
super supportive. I mean, he's the one that I always when we met, I was always coloring my hair, but not because I was gray. I just even at 44, I was not gray. I just like to do different things with my hair, but I always swore once the wrinkles, once the gray hair set in, I was going to go cold turkey. And that was before the pandemic when everybody had to quit coloring their hair, right? And so I started to see the grays and the sparkles. And I remember telling my hairdresser, all right, we're stopping the hair coloring. And he was like, you don't have enough sparkles. I was like, nope, I want to see every single one of them. And then you're going to turn me into Storm. And I'm going to be like X-Men. And this thing is going to be gray, 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 gray. And so it's just, it's coming in these like streaks. It's really like Storm, or oh, I forget the woman who used to be on that clothing personal, Stacey London, like the Stacey London streaks.
yeah,
And Peter was the first one to say, I'm so glad you're not doing that. I like your sparkles.
I'll
You know-
continue coloring my hair. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Let me ask you ladies this. It seems to me that there's this Ariadne thread that runs through the book, and it is this idea that people come in and they write this chapter of themselves while simultaneously either getting ready to go through a tragedy, in a tragedy, or coming through a tragedy. And it seems like a lot of the chapters are people actually changing the way they think, and it translates to the pages there. Does that sound accurate to anybody in there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's not really a tragedy.
Okay.
I really don't.
Right.
I don't see it that way. I think that these are events that happened and people pivoted.
Right.
And like realizing in my chapter that I rang the triangle about 2,000 food processing plants mysteriously burning in a year. That is tragic, but okay, here's the news. Now what will you do? So that was my way of doing it. Erica took on ageism and judgmentalism and so many other things. Nothing tragic in there except that it's tragic. People think that way, and you can learn from how she handled it beautifully. And with Jill, it's beyond age of midlife crisis kind of thing, but it is absolutely a career crisis and identity. That's not tragic. That's common. So I don't necessarily disagree with you, George, but what I do see is that we've all decided to select an event within the last 5 years that was a significant event that did cause us to put the F in shit and turn it into shift. In other words, when you spell the word out, right? It just.
Well, look at Russ. He went through all these trials with cancer, but look at him now. He's like so positive and just turned the whole thing around and wrote a chapter about positivity. And then there's Chris with MS.
Oh, yeah.
Who just turned that one around too. So, and like for me, all the trials in my life, I've always turned them around. I have always been a positive thinker, and how can I make this better and not get bitter?
Yes.
And actually, it's my calling also is to motivate others. And that's what I did through the hashtag Sunrise Around the World. How can I be someone that's instrumental during COVID when life was shit, right? Life was crappy. How can I, just this one person, change the trajectory for so many others? And I did that through just a simple hashtag. And I have had so many people say, what did the doctor say to you, Lonnie, that I saved her life? I wouldn't take it that far, but
she did.
Some people were pretty depressed.
I'm sorry, it took me a minute to pull that out. Yeah, let me just chime in on that. We had somebody who shared with me that she was really down, like bad. Like, if you've ever felt like there's no hope, things are not going to change, it's not going to get any better. You know how that feels, how awful that feels. And that's where she was. And she shared this with me. and said, if it were not for Jill's posts, I don't know that I would be here, because she gave me
That's so
hope.
crazy. Yeah. And we don't know. We don't know when we're doing these things. But when somebody tells us, hey, you really saved me. And I've had more than one person text me. So it just takes one effort from a crappy situation to say, what can I do? How can I be instrumental and actually do it? And no matter how small it is, whatever it is, what was that? That poem that I wrote from Helen Keller, and you read it before we got on here, George?
It says, I am one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do.
Exactly.
That's
Bravo.
beautiful.
And that's where everyone in this book had the same motto, for sure. It wasn't just mine. How can I do something? So
That, and I think realizing, for me anyway, that God is economical and he uses all things for good. All things. Even other people getting caught up in their own trauma and stupidity and projecting and gaslighting and doing everything that they're doing. It only kind of strengthens one's own testimony and one's own faith walk, and you know, iron sharpens iron, I guess. But it was a big lesson. And so, yeah, to Lonnie's point, could they have all been tragedies? No, but I think God is economical, and there is really no such thing, even though it feels like it when you're walking through it.
Well, I also want to tip the hat over to the courage that it took for first time writers and those who have tried before. And Jill's shaking her head with big eyes. For those of you who don't see the podcast,
Jill was amazing. Man, she was amazing.
bless her
Aw.
heart, not in a
Jumped
southern way.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had two people with MS, George, and one of them
Ooh.
will never get out of a wheelchair. And her story, Leanna's story. Bravo, Leanna, for coming forward and getting her story done. And she did that because Jill shared from the heart what this was like, and Leanna said, "I want that experience. I think I could do a chapter in a weekend. I know I can't really type that well, but I know how to write. At least I can talk it out." So these were people that were doing what Jill's mindset was. How can I anyway? What can I do anyway, in
I
spite of
think
it?
I asked you that question too, huh,
What?
Lonnie?
What
And
question?
it rattled you awake. Remember when you were going through tough times and I told you, I said, you may not be able to do this, but you can do this. What can you do?
Both of you have influenced me, because Erica will say, she'll flip back at me and go, "You don't know that. You don't know that that's true yet." Because my mind will go into some spin on something, and she'll be like, "You don't know that yet." So and she'd be right.
Reel you back in.
And she'd be right half the time. Um, and then there's Jill, which is, what can you do? And for those of you who don't know, I've broken my wrist and have a lot of challenges, and life isn't the same. And what can I do? Well, I can now wash dishes with one hand. There's a lot I figured out
Not
to
funny.
do, but
Yeah.
it's hard. But honestly, if it hadn't happened, I might not have been thinking, what can I do? And Rattled Awake might not have come about, because I was busy over here, lone wolf freelance writer over here writing memoirs for people, and nobody would have heard much from me at all. And then I had to come up with something, and it sort of developed itself. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm so genius. It was, what are people going through? What did they go through? How can we feature this in a way that is not your typical self-help book? It is not a triumph over tragedy, adversity overcome. I didn't want it to be anything like anything we'd ever seen before. Even the bios. I said, do your name, and like, Erica Warfield is on a mission too. And I said, "What's you're on a mission to?" And she's like, "I don't know." And it took her 3 days. It did. And you
Yeah.
came up with right? That was a challenge.
That was the challenge, was that stupid bio. Everything else like just kind of flew, because I'd been thinking about it for a while. I had a couple chapters kind of fleshed out and outlined, and I was like, okay, I could revamp this and then, change it to add humor, because a lot of the stories were on the heavier side. And so I realized, even though mine was on the heavy side, I had the opportunity to try to infuse it with humor, because there was a lot that was really funny about other people's stupidity. So but that bio, oh my gosh, I really don't like tooting my own horn.
Though it's also it's a challenge, George, because if people don't read the directions, I swear to you, I get a page and a half of a bio from people. And I'm like, no, 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 no. The directions are 3 to 4 sentences and start with your name and I'm on a mission to. And then that really forces people to focus on what it is that matters the most and who they want to impact. And in story development, that's what I do, is I help people to really, really focus on that thing. What's that message? What's that
You know,
thing we're doing? Go ahead.
there was I think you get the page and a half because we were all copy pasting our LinkedIn about section, and calling it the day. But there was one thing that I know was helpful for me before we started to Rattled Awake, and you and I were, going back and forth about a potential book in the future, and that was write 5 reviews
Oh,
of
yes.
what your avatar would write after they read your book. And I realized my avatar was Paulina Porozkova. It was women who ended up in divorce, being told they're past their best by date. Nobody's going to look at them. And they're literally just kind of relegated and shoved in the closet. And I'm a mere ant compared to Paulina Porozkova. But to hear her speak on it so eloquently, I mean, women are. And I think that as I looked at that avatar and I started realizing that women who are millennials, and let's not even get into the Zoomers, but the younger millennials, they have no idea how they're about to be treated.
Right? This just in. Prepare to be invisible.
Yeah.
You're cute now.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Take pictures. I'm just telling you, that's how the world treats you. And it needs to change.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It makes me
In my,
it makes me
in my
wonder. Go
chapter,
ahead.
in my chapter, I write about becoming an executive chef and coming through the ranks and working hard. But do you know how hard it is to get there when the men are usually the exec chefs and they don't take you serious? So we all have that circumstance of, and I wouldn't say all men, I can't categorize, but there was a few men that had huge egos and did not want me to succeed because I was a woman. And my last job that I left, I had been working for years with old ovens. As soon as I retired and left, I came back to fill in one day, and there was a new stove there. And I said, "Okay, how did you get that new stove?" And I worked here for 2 years. He told me it's a man's world. Jill, it's a man's world, and men get what they want. And maybe that's true or maybe that's not, but
It was in your world.
I think it was. Yeah, so that's the things that we, me and Erica and all these people, we go through, being pegged as somebody that, oh, you married somebody younger, so you're, a cougar, and or whatever. And me, I'm a woman, so I shouldn't be in charge of anything. I should be taking direction from men. That's a controversial statement, and I know that it is, but that's how I felt
Well,
all
that's
the
how it
time.
is in food service, Jill.
It
I mean, I
is.
have a background in food service, and I wonder how these guys get through the door. Their heads are so big every day.
Yeah,
They get bigger and bigger heads. I'm like, really? How do you even get in the car at the end of the
yeah,
day? You're just so blown up over yourself. Aren't you special?
yeah.
I could saute as fast as you, bro. Come on, bring it. I mean, we're just as capable. Come on, cut
Yep.
it out. It's very competitive.
Do you
I think one job that I had was a prep cook, and it was after COVID. No, it was during COVID. Yeah, and I needed a job, so I took this job as prep cook, this really fancy restaurant, nobody spoke English, and the exec chef, didn't really know all the things that I knew how to do. So I went in and I busted out some flank steak and I portioned them out. And then I went and I filleted some halibut, portioned that out.
I can just see you.
I think they were taken back. Oh my gosh, this
Good.
girl can really do some things. I have a really nice filleting knife too. And in fact, I don't know if you know this or not, but you can fillet a salmon without a knife. You just take it, hold on to it, and run your hand down it. I did that to several. And it's I'm not bragging. I'm just saying sometimes women have to do things like that, to show you. I got to show you I can do these things. So to be taken not with a grain of salt, but hey, she can do that. So
Do you think society is changing? Do you think for the group coming up, be it millennials, like maybe because of some of the things that you have done or the way the world is changing or people being awake, that maybe the attitudes in society between men and women are changing?
are you talking to me?
Anyone
just
who wants to
everybody?
take that. Yeah. What do you think, Chef?
I think in the culinary world, it's tough. And I don't know why, but people that are in charge, they get these huge egos. And what I say is law, right? I was never like that as an exec chef. I was always real patient. And how can I serve you? How can I show you how to do what I'm doing in a kind way? I was never, I don't like ego. Ego is not part of who I am. So, yeah, but I think it's real out there.
Sure.
So
I think it's not so much a gender divide, just like it's not so much an age divide or a political divide. I really see this as good versus evil, light versus dark, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of political affiliation. And speaking to Lonnie's chapter, I really do believe that there is a move to just divide, 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 and have us focus on the differences versus everything that makes us similar, because there's only one race, as we all know. It's the human race, which includes all ethnicities, and it's really a tragedy to see this coming down to the haves versus the have-nots, or the gender or the age or the political whatever. And that's just sort of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I think the Rattled Awake series is one of the reasons it's so compelling is it's better than all the narratives out there. We have all these canned narratives that you're supposed to go watch a superhero movie or watch this rom-com movie. Like there's all this silliness out there. But when you read the chapters of real people who have gone out of their way and faced situations and found ways to find and create meaning in those, like that's what Rattled Awake stories have been to me so far. And I think it's way more compelling and way more beautiful to see your fellow human being solving problems and finding meaning and building relationships. I think that's one reason it's so successful to all you ladies. Lonnie, what do you think about that? Is that something that seems to be happening?
Which part? That Rattled Awake rocks, or that
We know that part's true. We know it's true.
It is. I think that stories of hope and improvement will never grow old, and there is an addiction, I think, to chaos and in fact sort of a numbing out to it all that's happening through movies and television and whatever kind of frequency is behind all those being broadcast at people. That's another topic, but I think that ultimately what we consume visually and in music as well, audibly, is having an impact. And that if we could just all like be mindful and focus in on something that actually feeds the soul versus takes from it or terrorizes it or terrifies it, or creates some kind of like we'll have a much better time of life if we could all can we just have a good time with, how can I have more fun today than I ever thought possible? To focus on that, because there's a lot going on that if you want to focus on that and you want to doom scroll, you can be busy all day and all night, and you'll find all that stuff, and it never ends, and it may or may not be true, but if you receive it that way, then you believe it that way. And so with all due respect to people and their love of zombie movies and horror films, I think, and they do. I don't get it. I just
I
don't get
don't
it. I
get
can't even
it.
watch it. I can't even
Yeah.
watch a trailer ad for one of those. I don't understand that. But okay, there's plenty of material out there for you guys.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love it
I
if one of y'all were rattled awake to stop doing that and like switch the channel from I want to watch zombie movies where people get eaten to like a culinary show. I don't know, something productive. I don't know. Maybe that's a reach. I'm making shit up, George. But you know,
That's my girl.
changing the subject a little bit too. I also think that all those things can be put on the shelf and away from you when you're writing and when you're writing your story. And that's why I wanted to promote, if anybody has a story within them, it helps you to get real with the things that are important and the things that might help. You know, when you're writing, you're thinking, how can I help somebody through this story? And it actually does help people through your stories. That's why we're in this world together, helping each other,
yeah.
sharing our stories. So if you have an inkling to get into the next book, I'm always going to be promoting that because it was a mind-blowing experience for me.
Jill, you were like the proverbial caterpillar and butterfly, like from where you started to all the different iterations and where you
Yeah.
finished. I mean, it was
Yeah.
really just a beautiful, transformative process to
Thank
get
you
to
for helping
witness.
me with all that too. That was a
Oh,
fun
that was all
process, wasn't
you.
it?
That was all you.
But another thing too is, my background working, work. I never had time to sit still. Me write something, I'm like, no, I don't have time. So when I actually started writing, I'm like, hey, I really like this. And then Lonnie started putting her little, how would you say it? The magic touches on it, changing how I wrote things. It just opened my eyes like, wow, this is fun.
She's like, wait, sorry, I got bad hair day today. Look, this is hair with one hand. You cannot use a curling iron when you have only one hand. Bear with me here, mop top.
You know, I shouldn't even think this is
I'm
remotely
okay with
funny.
that.
Peter had a strength and conditioning coach who broke both wrists really badly in a freak weightlifting accident
Oh
where,
God.
yeah,
Oh
and he ended
God.
up with the weights on him, and his arms couldn't move, and it broke
Oh,
both his wrists,
Ah,
and I mean, even just going to the bathroom, he was like, "What was I gonna do?" I was like, We don't have to go there, really," and it came down to he had to buy one of those portable bidets and have somebody attach it to his toilet. He was like, there was no other way. We just don't think about what we're going to do when those things happen. And I think that's what's so great about your chapter, Lonnie, because it wasn't just your rattled awake. It was, hey, it may not be the 2,000 food plants that have burned down, and it's, Armageddon or it's whatever. It's, you could end up losing one or both of your wrists, and you might not have family that can help you. And did you have enough stuff stocked? And it's something that we all kind of need to start looking into.
yeah, it was a personal SHTF moment for sure. Shit hit the fan. And it's like that every day. Life is not normal anymore. There's nothing about it. It's not a sympathy party. It's just that's a reality. Okay, now what? And that's honestly what the premise of Rattled Awake is about. It's like, oh, okay, that happened. Now what? How do I pivot? How do I become better, not bitter? And then share that because it can inspire other people and help them realize you're not alone. You're not the only one.
and sometimes that process takes years, you know? Do you know what I'm
And
saying?
What process?
The
Which
process of sitting in that moment. Sometimes, you don't change your life all of a sudden. Sometimes the things that you go through really affect you, and it takes years to come out of that.
God, I hope you're wrong. I don't think I
Well,
could do this for years.
I'm not talking years, but I mean, it's not on our terms and our time. So it's sometimes we can get out of it at these certain times, and certain things help us.
Mhm.
Do
And
you
I
think
think,
everybody? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, I think the beauty of this book too is it I think it could end up being a stepping stone, not to denigrate it or make it less than what it was, but it doesn't stop with just this anthology. I mean, each
Mhm.
one of us could, and each new co-author and author of the next volumes can use that to go on to larger platforms, larger podcasts, speaking engagements, stages. I know one of the things that I thought would be kind of fun is doing the Whatever podcast. So, Whatever podcast, if you're watching, Peter and I would love to come on and have the chats that you all have with the 304s, as you will so call them, um, because you just never know. You never know. And I think those young women sometimes are spoken to rather abruptly, and sometimes it's warranted that they are spoken to rather abruptly, um, because of what they think is acceptable and what will get them further in life. And it's really sad. It's a very sad thing to see that they're lessening what their value is, and they don't see what their true value is.
It's interesting to see the different models change. And like you had said something previously about the Rattled Awake series being different. As a Gen Xer, when I grew up, there used to be these commercials for like, there was like this giant quilt that went around the world and everybody sewed like a patch on there. And they had all these patches from around the world. It seems like this new modality of change coming from the ground up, where you're compiling authors coming together telling a story. It's not like you're telling a story, it's like you're telling our story, and everybody gets an opportunity to write a chapter in our book. And who wouldn't want to read a book about our story? Like there's something in there from everyone because everyone is writing something. And that's where real change can be. Someone can identify it. Maybe they identify with Jill's story or Erica's story or your story or Russ's story. But there's something in there that explains the human condition. And I think that you had spoken about like the plants and all these things that are happening in front of us, but maybe these things are happening so we at the bottom create change from the bottom up, because it sounds like every one of us wasn't born with a silver spoon in our mouth. It sounds like every one of us had to fight for the things that we have in our life that we love. And there's a great quote that Jill has in her section that says, in life, it's not about what you get from work, it's about who you become. I thought that was so beautiful. Like I think that's kind of what Rattled Awake is doing. It's providing our story. That's a cool model to think about, right?
Thank
It
you.
really is. And on top of what Erica was saying about what this book can do for a person, it can get them onto bigger podcasts. It can get them a broader audience. There's another part of it, like with Chris Freer. And I'm looking at your comment, Bob, about your biggest event was your learning to love your wheelchair.
I
Bob,
love that.
Bob, that's amazing. Bob was a surfer, if you guys didn't know.
Hmm.
And so Chris was relegated to a wheelchair too, and then made sure that he got out of it. He's walking, and that could be his story. That could be enough. That's inspiring. But what's also happened is that Chris revealed that since he was a kid, words jiggle on the page
Mhm.
when he tries to read. That's really hard to imagine that
Hmm.
he wrote and wants to keep writing and can't stop writing. That's pretty amazing. And
You know,
that's a story right there.
and I think the thing that gets me about Chris's story, hearing about the words wiggling, hearing how he was treated in school, you know, um, just all the horrible things that can go down. If somebody has a learning disability, not that he does, but how teachers can be, especially back in that era, how teachers could be, is I just lost my train of thought. Talk about a learning disability. I completely just lost my train of thought. Anyway, to take away from that, that was other people's dysfunction. It was other people's dysfunction and trauma and whatever else, and he took it. And the anointing is great upon you when there is that much being thrown at you, even as a small child. And then to come out and to do what he did, to do what Jill did, to do what Lonnie encouraged all of us to do, You know the anointing is great when you have that much garbage thrown at you to stop you, and you still overcome.
A strong will. I'm a tough woman. I've always thought that I was a tough woman because you have to be tough to ignore all the naysayers and the ego and push your way through, And so you're right. Everybody has their cross to bear in life. And I've always thought, I am so proud of myself. And we all should be proud of ourselves for getting through whatever little obstacle there was in life and coming out stronger on the other side. Whether it was COVID or things in work or whatever. I mean, we pushed through it. We got through it, right? And we all have a story to tell. So we should all get in the next book. Write your story.
George, I
What is the
really want to
process?
thank you. I want to pick up on what you said about this being everybody's story, because we all had some kind of shook moment. And what I've seen that everyone, not only do we all have that in common, which is the thread that binds all of us authors and all of us people and all of us readers, is that there's a consistent theme of taking back your power, taking back authority over your life. Like Jill said, willpower. And that is contagious. That's something that you want to pick up on, not another zombie gonna eat a zombie trick. Like what you want is, how can we, oh, okay, it's like that, huh? Oh, okay, let's see what we could do about that right now. I don't like this at all. But if we can, link arms and circle the wagons and, with people that are also strong and have been through a lot, and now you know who they are. It's this book and the continued series. I'm so excited. Leslie is here. She just signed up this morning. I want to give her major props. Yeah, if I could
I'm
clap
so
with both
excited.
hands, I'm gonna airbox you, Leslie.
That's awesome.
She,
Congratulations, Leslie.
yes, it's a big deal, and I'm so proud of her.
She
And
has a great story within her. She has a great story.
so, yeah, then it becomes an interesting point to figure out what is that singular message, what is that singular point, and what story are we going to tell? And so that, I talk to every author before it's a yes, before that. No, don't just sign up everybody. I don't deny so far everybody's been freaking great, because Jill, you bring amazing people to the party. They're like so beautiful, and they have so much to offer. And you too, Erica. Dr. Deidre Clark is coming in. She's gonna do a chapter.
Is she really? That's news to me. I love that.
I know. And so we were on the phone today also figuring out what angle, what are we going to do? How do I point this towards what it is that you want to be about in the future? And so this isn't just people kind of throwing up on paper. This is very targeted on purpose, so that it serves the authors, the writers, and the back and the front and whatever the progress. Where do they want to be next? What do they want this to do for them? And that comes from experience working in writing, that helping people, because marketing is everything and everything's marketing. And what do you want this book to do for you next is really, or the chapter, how do you want this to help you and your readers? So it's not just chicken soup for the soul stories, it's more. It is.
What does the process look like, Lonnie? Like, people, you get together for a week, and like maybe you can speak a little bit to what the process is like, the creative interaction between everybody.
The creative interaction I think it's going to be different with every group, quite honestly, George.
Sure.
The one for volume 1 was a lot of interaction. There were a lot of first-time writers, and Jill's always like, that was me. I tell you, that was me.
Well, I think Lorette meant me on the Whatever podcast.
Yeah. So what happened is very different from what was planned. The plan was that people would come in on Sunday morning and they would all have their chapter done, and then they would exchange their chapters by little group rooms, Zoom rooms, and kibitz a bit, edit a little bit, have some commentary, and be done. But only one person came with their chapter done, and that was Erica. And so, right. So Sunday morning was not what was planned. And it was like, oh, okay, Erica, go have some coffee. They're going to write. And if you're, I was just kidding about that, but she was done. And I think that the other people needed more time to process the focus. And that's why I've decided in this next workshop, and from now on, Leslie and I were on the phone for 90 minutes. And then I was on the phone with Dr. Clark for another hour plus. I want to make sure that we're really clear coming into this, that it's not like, I don't know. Because that's the beginning of new possibilities, and that's wonderful. But we have a weekend to figure this out. And so I want to be really clear and sure with them too, so that they have a chance over the next couple of days to mull it over. Does this still seem right? Does this still seem like what I want to talk about? Because Jill started in on the obvious, which was about food, because love a foodie is her thing. And it ended up being about a personal transformation. So it's a lot of soul searching, George, and that tends to happen in the group, but it's also, in the night. And at night they go home and they're like, what really matters? And that then in the collaboration, the viewing of each other's chapters, and there's comments that are made on these Google Docs. And like with Chris, somebody made some comments, and they basically rewrote a few paragraphs for him. And I said, I reached out to him and I said, because he says, I don't know if I should use that. If you want to do that, whatever you want to do, Lonnie, however you want to edit it, whatever you want to do. And I said, Chris, I like the way you put it better. She wrote it all real academic and stuff, and it sounds real nice, but it doesn't sound like you. And so, I really want this to sound like you. And I swear, George and ladies, I swear that is what pushed Chris Freer into realizing he could write. I'm about to get emotional. Oh, shit. That was beautiful. A big moment for him.
Yeah.
To realize he's not a lunk. He actually has a great way with words. And even the highly degreed academic didn't do a better job than than Chris on paper.
I loved his story.
His story was great. His story was great.
That's a big deal. It just proves you don't have to be some highfalutin, highly degreed, anything. Just be honest. Just be transparent. And you can really have impact with people. That's all that matters. So we want to have impact. And we want to keep it so that they keep reading. That's why I like to sanctify. I say, let's take the zip line to the finish line. Let's get this puppy done. Beginning, middle, end, next. And that way the readers can really get through the entire book quite easily. And everybody's story has been consumed. And it's a fresh new, oh, look at this one. Oh, look at this one. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful array of people. And so that process, you asked about the process. What happens after they turn in their chapters? They turn them into me, and I become the final editor. And if I have to, I'll pick up the phone. I called Willie. Hi, Willie. I see you here. And I was like, who's this guy? You mentioned, who's this guy in the chapter? What are you talking about? And so I look for clarity. Oh, look at the kitty. I love
Ginger.
And so I make sure that it all makes sense, and that way the readers are and the writers are honored for their time spent. And then I go into formatting, and we've created a cover that will be the series. It will be the look, and there will be theme books in the future of like Moms on a Mission, a whole book on Moms on a Mission. I really want that. And I want a whole book on young adults, like what happened over the last 5 years for you kids? What happened? What's your rattled awake moment? And I really would love to have that theme book. And then their photos are beautiful photos, and faces are put on the back, and away it goes off to Amazon. And then we collaborate to make that puppy a bestseller, and that's a game changer. So that's the process.
I love it. Often we think about, a lot of the times we think about when people get the flu or they get sick, it's contagious. I think the same thing's true for healing, right? Like when people come together, like healing is contagious. Like if I see you get emotional, it makes me feel a little emotional, but it makes me think of my friend who overcame this thing. And why wouldn't it work that way if sickness is contagious? Why wouldn't healing be contagious? And why wouldn't we heal through the wounds of others by learning from their experience? I think the Rattled Awake is amazing. I think all of those could be bestsellers because every person writing them is a bestseller, is a best person, and they're putting their best foot forward to tell a story that actually happened. And it's just I don't know, it's very soulful and beautiful and healing in so many ways. You don't see that these days. It's been an absence of that for so long.
Well, it's frequency, right? What you're saying, if
I like
we
it.
can all be
Yeah.
together, if we can be contagious in illness, we can be contagious in healing. And so the book and the anthology is definitely setting the frequency for doing that. And for all of us, I think, as current co authors and future co authors, realizing that we got to get away from whatever the negative circumstance, the negative people, um, you know, anything that would rob of the anointing that's already placed within you. And so, yeah, it is. It's all about the frequency. I love that you said that.
Do you think that maybe these things that are happening to us, sometimes I think it's like the universe of God, or some people believe in the universe speaking to them, but maybe these things are happening to us to sculpt us into the people we're supposed to be. And if you look at it from that angle, it's kind of inspiring. Like this thing you think is something to break you down, it's just a test. And there's no wrong answer, but you got to pass this test. You're going to keep going through this test until you find a way to do it. And it's painful because you're being sculpted into this authentic present to the universe that is you. Like so many of your stories, like I read this, like, oh, that's so cool the way she did that. Or I'm stoked that she stood up for that. Like maybe that's what's happening. And the people that are, once you write your story, all of a sudden you can see someone else about to take that step. And then your job is like, I'm going to help them get through that step because I know what it's like. And we all have this secret power and desire to want to help a younger version of ourselves go through something that could be similar, right? It sounds like that's what all you ladies are doing, and Russ is doing, and Willie's doing, all these people are doing.
I've always had the theory that you don't have to be the best, you just have to jump in. And that was always my secret sauce. Boom. You don't have to be the best. Lonnie can attest to that. Oops, we're this way. I was not the best in writing, but I jumped in and I gave it hell. And for me, looking back on that, super proud of myself.
Yay.
And that's what I want to
There you
teach
go.
others. Get it in the book. Just try it, right? You don't have to be the best. Just jump in. Everybody has a good story.
Yeah, that's one of the saddest things when people think that they don't have a story. The fact that you're here means you have a story to tell. You may be working on your story right now, but you have a story to tell. And sometimes I think this irrational expectations that are force-fed to us through billboards and magazines and movies, like these are they're almost pornographic in nature because they're so unrealistic. And then that forces you to set this bar like so far up here that like, why even try? Because I can't be that person. So then you get stuck and you start getting this negative feedback in your mind. Like, well, I'll never be Brad Pitt, or I'll never be this guy, or I'll never be that lady. But who cares about those dummies? Like, you are a better person because you are your authentic person. And you have your own story to tell. And once you start doing that, you become inspiration for other people. I love it.
I think, and there was so much that you just said there, George. I'm like trying to pick the one out. My brain just bifurcated.
Take it away, Erica. I'm gonna sit back here and wait for a second.
I know, right? Well, first, I do want to say this about Brad Pitt in case he's watching. I mean, he has stated rather eloquently that he has realized you can be at the top and realize it's nothing. What is important? What is there after the accolades? What is there after? So even he would say, once you hit the pinnacle, if you don't have your priorities in order, it's a hard letdown. There's only so much money you can have and spend. Now, with that said, for everybody else who maybe doesn't want to be Brad Pitt, and just thinks I'm the lunk, I've never written before, I've never done this, I won't amount to anything. Those are other people's trauma whispering into your brain, right? Do not mourn, because that didn't exist either. You being alone did not exist. That was spoken over you to rob you of your anointing. But the fact of the matter is we are kind of like Peter has this saying, and he's probably already in wrestling getting the tar beat out of him right now and pinned and whatever else. But he has a saying that the aspen tree is his favorite. And the reason the aspen tree is his favorite is because the aspen tree has one root system all across the world. All the aspens belong to one root system. And he says that's like us as people.
Mm.
And so we have to be there for each other. And it's the saddest thing, I think, for the both of us when we see people slandering or libeling or tearing each other down or, foisting their trauma on other people, smear campaigns. It's, and I that kind of came out in my chapter a little bit, but I'm just speaking in general, to your point of, us all being there for each other. Now, do I believe in being a masochist and letting people abuse you? No. I mean, but for the rest of those that are good eggs, then, it's about being there for them. No Judas eggs. What's a Judas egg? There's 12 eggs in a dozen, and there's always the cracked one. That's the Judas egg.
Sometimes I think you have to be. Sometimes I think we all find ourselves cracked so that we know how to get better. Like sometimes you have to be broken to be reborn again. And there's this theme that runs through the spiritual literature of choose your book, of you find your moment, your Job moment, or you get broken, and it's there where you find the gold. And if you read mythologies, whether it's the Homeric verses or Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, often where we stumble is where we find the gold. We stumble and we fall, but like that's the world telling us, okay, here's the spot to dig. This is the thing that's bothering you. This is the thing that's holding you back. Let's work on this. And it's hard to understand that. It's hard to get there. But once you do, you begin to see these things that happen in your life as, okay, instead of why did this happen to me, the question is, what can I learn here? And if you can begin asking better questions, you can have better answers. Because so often we're taught in life to, well, why did this happen to me? And if you ask a dumb question, you get a dumb answer. Well, it happened because you're dumb. It happened because you do this. You always do that. And you go down this wrong road. But if you just start asking better questions, you can change that inner dialogue in your mind of like, okay, what can I learn here? Is there a pattern happening here? Okay, if I do something different, will I have the same results? And I think that it takes us right back to Rattled Awake, because you can really learn by modeling what other people do. If we look back to the times of ceremony, or people, you still find this sometimes when you go to different ceremonies, like we learn through rituals, we learn through watching mentors. And so much of that has been stripped out of our society. So much of the rituals and the rites of passage have been turned into prom dates and a first car and, getting a middle life crisis and stuff like those. While ritualistic in ways, those are not the rituals that we should be looking towards to pass on to other people. We should be finding something more meaningful that a young person can watch someone go through, and that an older person can help that person go through. And then we change those roles. And I think that that's what Rattled Awake is. You get to be the young person, the middle person, and the older person. And you're telling your story. It's a ceremonial in some ways. Rattled Awake, people, check it out.
Are you not into Hoko and promposals? Is that what you're saying?
Everything's got their place.
No, I watch it all and I'm like, what?
Thank you,
Yeah.
George. That was beautiful.
It
And
was.
that
That was great.
you're
Yeah.
so excited about it and you get it. And I love your style, hon. You're just the best. You're the
Well, it takes
best.
one to know one. Thank you, ladies. Like Rattled Awake, check it out. It's what I see on the future. And I think all of us have a obligation that, when you get to the top, you turn around and you help the next person up. And I love the model.
All you have to
what a
be
better
is
way.
one step ahead in order and to turn around and go, I'm one step ahead here. I know that next step. That's all you need. Just one step. You don't have to have it all figured out. And you talk about preserving the knowledge, and I believe in saying it forward. That's what I call this, a say it forward movement. Not just pay it forward, but say it forward. It's important that we do. and it's not AI can't touch this, because it can't. There's a
That's right.
robot. It's not going to tell you how to handle
Right.
people that are snarky. It's not going to tell you how to overcome your angst and your pain from the past. It's not going to be a human substitute of any kind. In fact, no AI content's allowed in these books. None. It's all from the heart. I mean it. And Amazon will pick it up. They poll us as we publish. Did you use AI tools? Did anybody use AI tools in this? They will kick it. And maybe they won't later, but I don't care. No machine is going to be able to duplicate your personal process, and your story matters. And I believe we've all lived to tell about it. Sometimes that's literal for some of us, that we've made it anyway. And it is important to share that, because there's somebody out there who's waiting to hear, learn from, whatever, leave a cult, whatever, you have no idea what your story is going to do for somebody. You may never hear it, but that matters that you've said it. Like, Wayne Dyer said, don't let the music die with you.
It's beautiful.
It's true. Because why else are we here? Because honestly, like you were using the Brad Pitt example and all the money, fame, fortune, accolades, all that. Who cares? In the end, what's endless? What's endless is the satisfaction that comes from helping other people. There is nothing like that moment when somebody says, "You make me believe I could do anything," or I see myself in you, or I'm inspired that I could do this too. There's nothing like it, and that's endless. You can't put a price on that. As soon as that happens to a person, like whether you're speaking on stage and somebody says that to you, "You make me believe I can do anything," or in passing, you'll never forget that, and it will constantly pull. Do more, do more, do more.
Yeah.
Find a way to do more. So that's
Yeah.
the
Agree.
endless stream of I don't know, reward, I guess. It has its own reward. So put pen to paper, share your heart. It's easier than you think. And I know you guys said it was hard, and and yeah, look at Jill's face. She's all screwed her face up like, fuck, that was hard. God damn, that was hard. I ain't lying. I was
Yeah,
up
when
to
you
15
were
fucking
saying
hours.
just write it down and get it done, I'm like, okay.
Look, it took me
It's not
9
so easy
hours
for
to.
some.
I took 9 hours to get my final chapter.
You
I
did.
didn't. Of course, I'm one finger Frida, but there's that.
Right. Yeah.
You want to talk about determined?
Yeah. I think in my chapter, what I wanted to relay to people was you can start over. No matter, what you're going through. Even Lonnie with her one hand, she could still do something. But I look back over my life, and it's been not a bed of roses. It hasn't been easy. But through, like you said, George, through all the trials,
Yeah.
it's brought me here to where I'm supposed to be. Just sitting here on the podcast with Lonnie and Erica, sharing this Rattled Awake. And in my life, I've always had to, in my chapter, I talk about rewriting your next chapter. And I think I had to do that every 2 years growing up. We moved every 2 years. What a hard time. I moved to high school in my senior year to a different school. That was tough. Yes. So, but fortitude, and we got gumption now, and it's made me tougher. It's made me just push through and say, I can do it. And that's what I want to, that's my message in life. And in this chapter is you can recreate yourself, even through all the trials that you've been through. You can come out stronger. Just keep going, and listen to that small spirit that says, yes, get in this book like I did. Yes, do it. I mean, because it could be a stumbling process until you say, okay, I'll do it. And you put it out into the universe. You're always going to go, oh, I can't do this. Why do I want to do this? It'll be hard. But once you say, Leslie says yes. But once you say yes, it's just like transformation starts.
The still small voice is never wrong.
Never.
Beautiful.
And whenever I start out my day, I always say, okay, what's next? What do you got for me? Because I never know. But I'll tell you what, it comes. It comes. And you just have to listen and you have to put some action behind that.
Yeah, you do.
I
You
think
can't
there's
just sit there and wish on it, right?
Right.
Yeah. You're going to say, George?
I think there's something to be said about the act of writing as well. You know, there's the spoken word and the written word. And I think that the written word, you know, I love the way in which Jill said you can rewrite your story, because as you're writing, I think you're rewiring your brain. It's like when you write, your brain is giving your body permission to act it out. And when you do that, you change the way you think. You're writing what is possible. Therefore, you must think of what is possible. When you begin thinking of what is possible, now you have the potential to take another direction when that decision comes up again. Even if you're not writing, you've already written out, I used to do this, but now I see life this way. As soon as you write that out, all of a sudden you can think about that avenue. When you talk about it, it's a dream. When you envision it, it's possible. But when you schedule it, when you write it down, it becomes real. It's the art of translating vision into reality. And that's what your stories are doing. That's what Rattled Awake is doing. You're taking an actual vision and turning it into reality. It's a beautiful thing.
You just made me think of something I've never thought of before. Sort of a ding. We can be our worst critic. We've all heard that. It's not, it's not cliche it's fact. Our thoughts can really beat us up. But I can really give myself a swift ass kicking hard in my head, but I don't do it on paper. On paper, what comes out are all these ahas, ideas, pithy one-liners. What can I do with this? How can I help this person? What could be the next, what's the chapter? It's all positive. But, in those other moments, like when I'm upset, it's just like, God, dumbass, whatever I say to myself, that comes out so easily. And that's from the old days, of
Yeah.
you're an idiot. And I was raised that way. It's like life was always a party foul. You fucked up again. Really? What now? Jesus. It was like that. And it isn't that, because life is like that, you're just, you're so, accomplished now. It's because what you do with that shit that makes a difference. It's up to you to put the F in shit and make a shift. It is. Hey, it's not just because stuff happens that you're, so advanced. Some people never get back up. And I think that's a shame that, but anyway, it was just the observation of the writing is reality. That voice, shut the fuck up, go away, leave me alone. Right? Like, stop. Find the focus on the other voice, the still small voice, like Erica said, the one that doesn't lie to us. The one that isn't trying to kick our ass into the ground again. That little devil and demon and angel, whatever. I don't know, however you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
It's real. It's happy to take you down. And writing will get that out of you if that's how you're feeling. I know I had a lot of sad stories, but it wasn't like, God, you're so stupid and you fucked up again. Those are conversations that happen. That's not writing that happens. I don't know. Maybe I'm just Sybil. I don't know. I don't think so, but
Let's hope not.
I'm just being honest here. The thoughts that run through, because I say writing is like thinking on paper, but whenever I write, it doesn't come out bad. It's not like horrible and self-deprecating. The humor is like my dumbass book is deprecating as hell, but that's okay. It was by design. I was the poster child for a dumbass. I'm okay with that. Because you live by example, lead by example. But for those people that are listening or that might consider like, well, what do I have to say? Just have a conversation. Let's just talk. Because I want to make sure that you feel confident in your message and that you realize that you can do it, and maybe you don't know it, but I do. And borrow my faith in you. Because I have had experience with first-time writers. I've had experience with experienced writers. We had experienced writers, George, that were like, this is hard. You know why? Because they had a system in their head about how they told their story every time. And this process shook them up.
That, and I think they were writing in different other genres. And writing like this is a completely different exercise, right?
Yeah,
It
like
just is.
Lonnie, you told me, yeah, you need to rewrite yours because yours sounds like a job resume.
Sounded like a resume.
It's funny how you start out and then pretty soon you give us some skills. Hey, put this here. Hey, this is funny. How about this? And then pretty soon you're like, yeah, I could do it. And it doesn't sound like a job. And what was the other ones that you said it sounded like? And you told them to change them?
A book
Uh,
report.
a book report.
Yep.
So that's where you came in and helped us tremendously. I mean,
Thanks.
yeah.
Well,
Lonnie, where does that gift from? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know, George. I don't know. It just, Jill asked me, she said, how do you do that? I was like, I don't really
For
know.
real.
I don't know. It just comes.
I'm a
And-
Lonnie wannabe. I want to be just like you.
You're so sweet.
I think it's funnier than hell. You're so funny. I just want to be like you. I told her, I'm like, I'm slow thinker. I'm more on the serious, I'm more serious. But I wish I could be more. It's not my gift.
You're hilarious. Stop.
It's
You're
Lonnie's
snarky.
gift.
You don't let it out very often, but I'm encouraging her. I'm like, come on out of the shell.
Yeah.
I think her next chapter is going to be a little bit more snarky.
How to
I
be
don't know.
snarky.
We'll see. We'll see. It really comes from experience, though, to answer your question, and being able to see, also to know, like, I see way down the road where they want this chapter to take them, how it can serve them and appeal to their readers at the same time. And so it's like, okay, if you didn't have this as your goal over here, then maybe all this other stuff, the resume, that way that it was, maybe that would serve the message. But knowing that this story is headed way over here instead, we've got to pull this together, take that out, massage it a little bit, change it up, bring this up to the front, and then open with a hook that sells a book. I love one-liners, things that are just like, pow, like, whoa, like, well, I have to read that chapter now. I've got to, or being on podcast with an opening line. So, how are you today? And what brought you here? Everybody's been calling me crazy, so I wrote a book about it. You'd want to listen to that person, wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah.
Just fucking pow them. Just do it.
Yep.
and then it'll be okay. You want to keep it going through the show or the book, and you want to end strong. It's just it's a matter of finessing a message so that it's kind of like dancing on ice instead of banging a hole in the ice. Some of those stories are they really are, they're traumatizing to read and to hear. And Rattled Awake isn't about that. It's about, let's dance on top of this topic and see, how can, did you hear it? Did you get that? Did you get that? Cool. That's all. That's all we need. We're not trying to, hammer anybody with a chapter. And that I think makes it consumable. Go ahead, George.
Do you have the next workshop's coming up this weekend? Is that accurate?
It is. It's very accurate. It's very soon.
Fantastic. What if people want to get involved? Like, what does it look like? Can they reach out to you, or like, what do they have to fly somewhere? Is that on Zoom? Like, tell us about the project coming up this weekend.
They can go to officialrattledawake.com, and it's just one page, and it has a download of FAQs also, so it's printed and it's easy to see, like, how you can make money on a book, and some of the frequently asked questions, they're there. And that page also has a calendar tab, a booking tab, so that I can, like, Bob, I'm so excited. Bob Whitty booked a call. I'm so excited to talk to Bob. Bob is such a smart ass. I love him, and I can't wait to see. And so maybe Bob will be in the workshop. It starts Friday. It's for 2 hours on Friday, and that's really getting to know each other. That's people coming in and saying, this is my mission. That's the bio, I'm on a mission too. And I want everybody's bio in by then. So it becomes a prompt. It becomes a way to break the ice so that everybody can start sharing from the heart what they're here to do. And then Saturday and Sunday is 4 hours. And that's from 2 to 6 p.m. Eastern. And then I plan to keep this going. So,
Yeah.
we'll get volume 2 done, and God, the people that are coming, the people that are involved are just so excited. Jill's coming back. Jill's coming
Nice.
back.
I like abuse.
Ah.
So,
How me again.
yeah, and I'm
Right?
hoping that Pistol Pete will do a chapter.
Oh, he's got a big rattled awake moment.
So is that a yes?
Well, last I heard was he was praying about it. So
Okay. Well, yep, and Willie J is coming back, and then we've got just a gamut. I've got a gal I call her Human Sunshine with legs, and we've got less. She is, dude. Wait. Oh, so the beauty of this is that the caliber of people that are drawn to do this and they're
Right.
bonding, really carries way beyond the publishing date, and
Right.
the networks and the Erica has been amazing in showing us the where do I start to say thank you big enough? Because we have all learned, if you want to learn, you can learn from her, because she's given it away. It was amazing. And she taught us how to market and to set up a company page and fix this and do that. And this shit makes sense. And I make $5,000 to tell people this stuff. I'm giving it away to you guys. I mean, she's been nothing but generous. I don't know what your real price is. It ought to be 30, honestly. Like, seriously, if this is what you teach people, they're lucky to be in your realm, Erica, because you are so freaking smart, and you brought so much to the book. You brought so much to the marketing, that you have single-handedly changed the entire trajectory of how successful this series will be. No small words. Honest to God, the truth. You have been so big, so much help. And look, George, I mean, talk about manifesting what was needed. I got Erica doing this. I mean, listen, I'm limited. And then I got this Sister Mary Sunshine over here and Chef Jill. Everybody loves her.
Mary Sunshine.
I'm just like, I can't possibly do it all. And these beautiful women have shown up and they're helping. There was help by other people, Dr. Constance Leland, she put us on her shows.
Mhm.
Russ put us on his shows. It's mind blowing how this came together so fast. It is a true testament to, if it's a big yes, if it's a nudge, if it's a go do it, you trust it, because the things that you need will show up. And these I'm just spontaneously telling you some of the things that I remember that Nicole, the gifted bipolar writer, Nicole, bless her heart, not in the Southern way, and she's out there making us memes. I call them posts. She's like, they're memes. I said, okay, whatever. Can you keep doing it? She's doing it again for volume 2, and I didn't even have to ask her. She volunteered. So there's somebody doing a little advertising. I'm out of breath trying to tell you how much help there's been.
We've all caught your vision.
It's contagious.
We see the vision. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it speaks
Thank you.
volumes. I once heard that faith and fear can't operate on the same
That's it.
at the same time. So if you're fearful, like you get scared and you get paralyzed. But if you're faithful, you just take that next step. You do like the chef and just jump in the water. You do like Erica. It's like, I don't care what society says. I'm Gen X. I'm gonna handle this thing. It's you do what Lonnie does, and you have people that are attracted to you like a magnet, so that you can help tell their story and it can live forever. I think there's something beautiful about that too, and that's what Rattled Awake is doing. Those stories go on forever. Once they're put down on paper, now they can travel around the world. And even, what do they say? A lie travels around the world before the truth gets its pants on. I think your stories are getting their pants on. They're moving around the world.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's beautiful. I want everyone listening to this to understand that you have a story in you, and that sometimes you need help getting it out. You need people around you to help you be faithful. You need people around you that may have been through something to help you see where you can step. And I happen to think that Lonnie is the person for that. I think Eric and Chef Jill are also the people for that. And I bet you, maybe I can have you talk, each one of you talk a little bit about what the Rattled Awake series has taught you. And I'll start with you, Chef. Very
You just
sunshine.
rattled her awake, George.
Yeah.
Dissertation now.
What it's taught me to sit in the student seat and learn from Lonnie, the teacher. It's also taught me to really brainstorm what I wanted to say. That was the really hardest part. That was really hard for me. Coming from the workforce into sitting still and writing, it's crazy. Also, it taught me that I believe in her vision and I wanted to share it. I wanted people to know that even if they're like me and came from like no writing skills whatsoever, that you can hop in and learn from, oops, I keep pointing the wrong way, this way. Learn from her. And it also taught me teamwork. I mean, we all came together as a team and busted this out, and we're super proud of it now. So those are some of the things that it's taught me.
Yeah, all valuable skills and skills that you can't learn unless you have someone to learn them with. It's beautiful, and it speaks volumes of the quote we spoke about earlier about the reward for our work is not what we get, but who we become. And I am one, but still I am one. Erica, you have I bet coming from your background, you've learned a different set of skills. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what you learned working with Lonnie and Rattled Awake.
Well, I didn't know how the whole Amazon process works. And so seeing how I was interested to see how the workshop was actually put together, because these are things that I kind of do, but in a different niche. So seeing that was really interesting. I think what Rattled Awake reinforced for me, because again, I've never written like this. I've never really necessarily written a chapter as memoir. I'd kind of tooled around with it at home. I had certain things set aside and I'd kind of pick at it and whatever. So embracing the way I write in that way, it's something that I've come back to after probably a 30-year hiatus.
Wow.
There was a time, my professors and the direction I was going, I ended up going into academia to swing back to come into corporate. But I had a lot of professors saying, you really need to go into op-ed because you just won't shut up. And, right. And so to get to do the Rattled Awake, it was like, I didn't let it die. And so that was probably the biggest awakening out of the Rattled Awake book itself. Now, prior to that, I would say just in general, what it reinforced was, yes, I'm Gen X, and Gen X by definition are all a group of BAs. And I really had to take it back to Lonnie and I were talking, and I couldn't go back to when I was 4. I mean, because it was only asked 5, go back 5 years, not 50. So but there are times one has to remind themselves, I did not get dropped off in the middle of Tehran, Iran as a 4-year-old off a school bus from an American private school to have to find my way back home, to screw around and not get the song out, and to not believe in myself, and so Rattled Awake was kind of like, if I could do that and God walked me through that, because that was a God thing, I can certainly write a chapter. And so it was a reinforcing, I think, a coming home to oneself.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Coming full circle in a lot of ways. And I'm a big fan of symbology, and I always think of the yin and yang symbol. It's got those two paisleys with like the white dot and then the black dot, and it's always moving, and there's chaos and order and chaos. Like it's such a beautiful image for our lives and the way we move through. Well, on the flip side of it, Lonnie, I bet you learn something new from every single person that takes time to talk to you. That must be pretty rewarding. I wonder, maybe you could speak to some of the things that you're learning. It's sometimes the teacher is the one who learns the most.
I've been not tested, but I've certainly had some moments of um I didn't know it could be like that. um there's there was a lot of shook moments in the beginning and until recently, just to get the book off the ground, to get this vision off the ground was like lifting a lead balloon at times. And it still flew. It still worked out. And I had, and I look around my place and I look sometimes at text messages or DMs and I'm like, remember, you've got support here. Remember. And Jill constantly, you're not alone. You're not alone. Like, I've not ever needed people, really. And so this has been very humbling. Not only do I have a broken hand, but my spirit was pretty down and I've been lifted up by these people. And so they have added to my story without even knowing it, just by showing up. And I think I'm still processing that. I haven't had a chance really to give it thought, like, what the hell just happened? But I can tell you beautiful things happened, and everybody is a success story to me, and hopefully for them, and that I hope that it changes their personal view of themselves, because that each person becomes a frequency, a broadcast of a legacy of a changed person, of an elevated sense of self and purpose. I remember that, there were a couple people who said, I suck at writing, or I have, kind of a brain that isn't really functioning that well right now. And I don't know if I can get through with this. Or I don't know if my schedule will. Every single person, well, with one exception, who said, I don't think I can do this, they actually did do it. They all did it. And I don't know if I don't know what point it's okay to say I'm so proud of all my adult friends, but I'm so freaking proud. I can hardly stand it. I really am. This is the proof copy. And then I've the real one should be here tomorrow. It won't have the band on it, but I really am so happy that this creative way of showing their pictures in these little talk bubbles, and then the simplicity, because there's wisdom in simplicity. And I learned that, over the past 5 years, what's the single biggest event that caused you to shift your perspective? That's it. That's the back cover. It is the least complicated back cover I've ever designed. And yet it's so profound. There's so much in this. There's so much in this book that's so deep and rich. And to see everyone come forward that thought, I don't know if I can, I just don't know. I noticed that Chef Jill hasn't said once, I suck at writing, because I told her to quit it. Stop saying that, because you don't, because you did a great job. You got there. And just knowing that this is changing people's world this way it's, what can you say about that, George?
I think what's awesome though is pretty soon I'm gonna say suck is in the past, and look at all the things that I did to become something better. I like starting from suck. I do.
There's nowhere to go but up from suck.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
If
Jill,
you're not
we got it.
embarrassed,
Jill, you were like the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. You know what I mean? There was nowhere to go but up. Everybody was like, that's the Disney ride, but I'll go because there's nowhere to go but up. And then look what happened.
Yeah.
There's also another message in here, George, that I had to figure out some things that I had previously delegated to someone else, and they dropped the ball multiple times. And so I spent a lot of long days and nights figuring out how to fix what went wrong. And I had some help, and I thank you, to like Dr. Constance, who was able to figure out finally how to work the cover out. So it worked out. The the stress I've aged. I was just like, God. But that's because I genuinely care so much about it. Not to toot my own horn that I really care about this, but I genuinely do.
Yeah.
And the challenge for me was, how in the hell am I going to learn how to do this thing that I've always let somebody else do, who charges hundreds of dollars to do it? Hundreds. And now I can kind of see why. But I also had some jacked up software and some technical issues, and believe me, when you have a vision and there is no choice, but you got to get it done, you'll find a way. If it matters enough, you will.
The
And
enemy does not come to rob empty bank vaults.
yeah, well, I got a couple of bats by the door now, and I am sick of that.
I mean, because think about it, Lonnie. Look at how many reviews came in so quickly, all 5-star. Your book, our book. I mean, it's been so well received. It's been so blessed. It's just such. There are no words. There simply are no words for the blessing that that book has been to us as co-authors and to people who are reading it. And everything that came to attack you was to stop that book from touching as many people as it did. So the enemy does not come to steal, rob, and destroy an empty bank vault. So kudos.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I think sometimes we may not need people, but people need us, and like, I think you're reaching out to I think a lot of people need what you're doing. And that's very powerful. I think, maybe you don't realize it, but just coming out here and reaching your arm out and inviting people, hey, I can help you tell us your story in a way that will help inspire other people. I don't know a greater gift than that. That's beautiful. I'm thankful that you're doing it. Thank you for that.
Thank you, George. Yeah, I'm gonna use my good arm and keep pulling them in. Come
I was
on
gonna
now.
say
Yeah,
that.
I'll
Right?
come over.
The one arm.
George, have you signed up?
I haven't signed up. I maybe send my form over. I got a story. I got a couple I could tell.
I'll bet you
Yeah.
do.
I've got a handful. Yeah.
I'll bet
Yeah.
you do. Yeah. Yeah, we all do have a story. And it's interesting. And I just want to put this out there. Erica was instrumental in getting reviews, but people for some reason are reluctant to give a review. And I don't know why. If it only takes a few minutes to do it. It's just the act of doing it. And it does make a difference. So please, if you got the book for free, or what if you didn't, please give us a review, because it does make a difference. And because we all look at reviews when we go to buy books, or
Sure.
products, right? We look at the product review. Well, the same thing is true. So there's so many aspects of a book that, for the first time writer, they're sitting there going, let me sharpen my pencil. And what do I start? What's my first sentence? And that's where they're at. There is so much more after that. And the beauty of this is that they don't have to think about it. Just show up, just sit down, be willing to collaborate with people who are in the same shoes you are, and just say, oh, okay, I'm gonna share this moment. How do I say it now? And the help is there. So it takes away all that fear of why I'm stuck getting started, or I don't know how to end it, or what the hell, what do I say? It becomes clear. And that is a gift, because it changes them forever. Jill's going to write a book, right? Chris Freer is going to do a book. These are people that they didn't see themselves writing books before. This is a change, a big change, not just for the readers, but for the writers. So
yeah,
that's about it.
It's beautiful. I think that's a great spot to leave it for today. But before I go, I would like to maybe just kind of come around the horn and let everybody talk about. I'm sure there's people that listen to the podcast that may want to reach out to everybody. So maybe we'll start with Chef, and we'll go to Erica, and then we'll come back to Lonnie and find out how people can get a hold of her, where they can do Rattled Awake, and what's coming up there. But let's start with Chef. Chef, maybe if people want to find out, they want to send you a sunrise, or they want to learn more about cooking skills, something like that, where can they find you, and what do you got coming up?
I actually have a small YouTube channel, Chef Jill Sullivan, that they can look into. And I plan on possibly doing a couple of more you know, that thing, the YouTube was something that I just jumped into during COVID, and I was just playing around with it. But I was talking to Michelle Mazzara. I am a Love a Foodie spice ambassador, and love her spices. So I think I will continue sharing her spices and some recipes. We're going to be doing a cooking show on Michelle Mazzara's live podcast. You could also follow hashtag Sunrise Around the World, where we share hope in each new day and making friendships along the way. I don't know. That's my tagline. And that was started during COVID, just to share hope in each new day. And now people send me to my personal, DM. They send me pictures of their sunrise, and I post it on LinkedIn. And there is a woman named Linda Lane, who is a psychic medium. Anyway, she shares some pretty cool captions to some of those sunrises. And me and her have worked together for 3 years, and it's been awesome. So that's just a couple of ways. I'm always on LinkedIn. So
It's beautiful. People should reach out and check it out. I've seen some of the pictures and read some of the captions, and they're mind blowing in a lot of ways. They mirror each other just to see the different beauty in them. And thank you for doing that. Erica, what if people are looking to get a hold of you and want some of your insights and some of the things you're teaching? Where can they find you, and what do you got coming up?
I am mostly on LinkedIn. There are very few Erica Warfields, Erica with a K, and then I've also got Erica Warfield Sales LLC. I've got a bunch of different company pages. I basically work within sales enablement and virtual sales mastery. Outside of that, I also have our side hustle, me and Pete. We do Warhammer Juices, and we've got a company page for that on LinkedIn. And Peter is pretty prolific on IG with that and what we're doing with Warhammer Juices. But really, if you go to my link tree, which is just /Erica Warfield, all the links are right there for you. So that's what I've got going. And hopefully, I'll be working on getting some speaking gigs, regarding ageism and just in general, what I covered in that chapter.
Ask
Yeah,
her what
I
her
think-
tagline is for her juices.
Just ask
What's
her.
the tagline for the juices?
This ain't no bull.
Yeah. So George, that's some of the things I love to do is come up
Yeah.
with taglines, and I'm proud as punch that Erica just look at that. I love that smile that she decided. I'm looking at Carly.
I know, right? Lonnie's like, hey, pitch my tagline stuff.
Because I know it's coming to me next. One of the things I love to do is title things. Tagline queen here, and it brings me great joy to do that. To come up with titles that make people or taglines that are memorable. Rattled Awake just is one of those. Kicking Karma's ass is another. How to deal with a dumbass. Life lessons learned from a lousy mother. I mean, they just go on and on. And so if somebody really needs a cool domain name, Willie J. He has puremissionent.com. That's a mouthful if you're on a podcast. So I said, how about you do bookwilliej.com? So he registered that right away. That just made sense. So I love to come up with things that make sense for somebody who's got a message and be a message maestro. So in addition to being a concierge book producer, which means I can do everything from the ghostwriting to editing to art direction to the marketing copy to the publishing, I really do enjoy a service that I have, which is third-party insights. And that is, basically it's like on speed dial, unlimited calls in a month for help with when it comes to marketing. If you're stuck for a message, how do we do this real quick? We've got to come up with some trade show things. I used to have a business in trade show items and logoing things that were really well done, creative, different. I've worked with multinational brands to do that. And I haven't lost my touch yet. But I just stopped ordering products from China a few years ago for some good reason. So yeah, so if people want to find out about the workshop, any of them, go to officialrattledawake.com, and that page will give you the FAQs and the way to get in touch with me. Otherwise, I'm hanging out on LinkedIn most times, most often. That's about it. Thank you so much for having us, man.
Are you kidding me? I'm flabbergasted. This is so much fun. I love talking to every one of you, and I think the conversation was beautiful. But more than that, I think that this particular conversation can be a bridge for people to walk across to find the author that is themselves. I'm not sure if that made sense, but it sounded good in my head. But it is a bridge. It's a bridge for people to walk across so they can learn to write, so that they can find ways to think about themselves in ways they've never had. And it's something that can go out to the world. And Lonnie is first class. She's world class. She'll bring out the best in you. She'll help your ideas blossom into the delicious fruit they're supposed to become. So I think everybody should reach out, check out what you got going on. There's one coming up this weekend, and there's you're an amazing person to talk to. And I think people are better after talking to you. At least I feel that way. So thank you for that. And that's all we got for today. I'm going to talk to you ladies briefly afterwards, but thank you very much for everybody today. That's all we got. Ladies and gentlemen, aloha.